Welcome to Travel Unraveled. I'm your host, Blake. Join me each month as I sit down face to face to spin a yarn with friends, fellow world travelers, and experts of all kinds to candidly and unapologetically discuss any and everything travel. If you haven't done so, please go back and listen to my previous episode before continuing, as we now resume part 2 of my interview with Brittany Lynne and pick up where we left off. I was just out in Papua New Guinea with the nonprofit that all they're doing is clean water. And, you really, when you go to sort of, I don't think it's fair to call Mexico a developing nation. It's more than that. But, anywhere that's substandard U.S., you really kind of realize how much we take for granted.
Yeah.
Water and the lack of that worldwide.
Yeah. And I think it actually gives us an opportunity to also be grateful for what we have. I think sometimes people go and they travel to these developing countries or countries that don't maybe have clean water that comes out of the tap. I mean, come on, like the tap water in LA, isn't like the healthiest water.
I don't drink it.
I don't either, so it's like, we won't get Montezuma's revenge from drinking a tap water in LA. But at the same time, I think it's it really all comes down to the way we want to see things. If we want to go to somewhere and we know, okay, I can't have the convenience of brushing my teeth with the water, and swishing it around my mouth from the sink, that's fine. But can we take a moment to be like, wow, I'm really grateful that we have that at home, instead of saying oh, it's so inconvenient to not be able to do this when I'm on vacation. So I think it's just an opportunity to be able to say, wow, we actually don't have to think about these things very much.
On that note, it got me thinking, when you're in these places, the only real solution we have is bottled water. And we're having, obviously, these huge issues with plastic now, and this just atrocious plastic heap in the ocean, and pretty much most of the planet is underdeveloped. Is there a solution in these places other than bottled water?
Well, I think bottled water, it depends on, like you said, there's plastic bottled water, and a lot of countries also have glass bottled water. So I'm not saying that using something that's a one-time use is always a good thing anyway. I'm getting to be more mindful about being less wasteful. So whether you recycle a glass water bottle or you're recycling plastic, it's still waste one way or another and has to be recycled somehow. But I know that some countries you can go to and ask and request that, do you have water in glass bottles? It's a really interesting question that you ask, because these are the questions that I think that we should be asking ourselves more. Now, I don't have a solution, and I actually don't have an answer to the question that you asked, but it makes me think, okay, but what can I do so that I'm not contributing to that big pile of plastic that's in the ocean? And I know that even for me, I have it here, my Hydro Flask that I use for everything. And if I forget it one day and one of my clients says, oh, do you want a bottle of water? I say no. If I really need it, I'll go to the sink and take a sip of water if I feel like I'm dehydrated. But I'm making small shifts in my own life to not be like, oh, well, it's convenient and I'm getting kind of thirsty, I'm going to have a bottle of water. Well, no, I don't want to contribute to that extra waste and to the plastics that are out in the world. So I think you kind of have to do your best, and that's enough.
I'm trying not to get too down on it, because it's really easy to look and be like, it's too late. We've f***ed up the planet. There's no coming back from this. But I guess step one, is just that awareness. And I really feel like we're in the awareness phase where, at least, on the East and West Coast, where it's a little more progressive, people they're speaking out. They want to be heard, and they're listening. They might not be doing as much action as they should, but at least sort of the awareness phase is happening.
Well, that's the first step, right? Is to recognize it and pay attention to it. And I think a lot of people could argue, oh, well, people aren't doing anything about it, and so, we're going to hell in a handbasket anyway. But at the same time, I think that there's opportunity. I mean, myself included, the only way I was able to start taking actionable steps was to become aware in the first place. So it creates more action and change over time. But I think that in order to create more change and have people take action, we have to take action ourselves. We have to start taking some shifts, and even if it feels a little more inconvenient, are we washing our clothes in hot water because we think that we have to, or can we wash our clothes in cold water? This was actually the first shift that I took 6 years ago or 7 years ago when I was thinking about little things that I could change. Are we going to use paper towels, or are we going to have reusable napkins that we wash? And are we going to take the plastic straw? Are we going to carry a straw with us when we go out? I carry something I found them. I actually can't remember where I found them. Maybe it was on Instagram or something, but I backed them on a Kickstarter campaign called Zero Waste Kit. And so I have like a bamboo fork on one end and spoon on the other, and a napkin, a reusable napkin, and a produce bag, and a reusable straw that I keep in my purse. And it also comes with a jar that you can use for leftovers or water. And so, do I forget it sometimes? Or, sometimes we forget our grocery bags at home. But a lot of times I then won't get enough stuff to require bags. If I can carry it up to the checkout counter, I can also carry it to my car. I don't need a bag. So I think it's just a matter of us now. We have this awareness. We have to say, okay, am I going to choose convenience over the planet?
Well, and that's a very American attitude.
It is.
I mean, we are the king, and of just make it fast, make it easy.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, believe me, like I still drive a car, and I know that I still have a cell phone, and I'm not advocating for us to just go back to no convenience whatsoever. But I also think that there is room for us to find ways and to take these steps to making it a part of our lifestyle. It doesn't have to be inconvenient to turn our lights off at night and use candles. It doesn't have to be inconvenient to wash napkins instead of using a one-time use paper towel and throwing it away. It doesn't have to be. I think that it's just a perspective change of seeing, okay, is it inconvenient that I have to wait another half an hour until I drive home to get a glass of water? Okay, yeah, maybe a little bit, but is it really inconvenient so that I don't put another plastic bottle out in the world? Not really. So I think it really just has to do with our attitude about it.
On that note of shift change, you're making a really big shift change, and you're moving to Costa Rica, sort of diving in 100%, shutting down shop in Los Angeles and moving out to Costa Rica for, an indeterminate amount of time.
Yeah. What's
that sort of process been like? How are you mentally gearing up for, an international move?
Uh-huh. Well, when it comes to the mental part of it, I'll be honest. I mean, I've been using the words taking a long adventure instead of moving, because I'm having kind of a hard time.
Oh, sorry. Did I trigger you?
No, it's fine. It's just, it's actually funny though that you say that, because it really is. I mean, I am moving out of Los Angeles for a little while. And I think because this is actually the first time in my life I don't have a plan. I have no idea how long I'm going to be down there. I don't know when, if, I'm coming back. I've never been like fly by the seat of my pants kind of gal. So it's kind of interesting to me. This is definitely a shift in my own mindset of letting go of not only expectation, but also letting go of resistance and being okay with not knowing and just trusting that everything's going to work out. I mean, I always had a cushion to fall back on, and I still do. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like if I came back to the States and I had nowhere to live, it's not like my mom would be like, well, you can't stay here. And my friends too, everyone that I've talked to about this, they're like, you can stay with us, And so I think for me, it's just trusting that I can do something that's different that I've never done before, and trusting myself, because every time I've been to Costa Rica before, last year I was there for 2 months at a time, and then I went back for another month, and the year before I was there for a month. I always had my home to come back to, this apartment in Redondo Beach that was kind of my safety place, and I have been given an opportunity to go down there and be on this at the Sanctuary at Two Rivers, this yoga retreat and teacher training center for 6 months. And then I kind of had to say, well, if I'm going to, I can't keep my place for 6 months here without, I can't pay the rent for 6 months and not live here. And I also can't go to any of my clients and say, hey, like, is it cool if I get a sub for 6 months? I did it last year for 2 months, and then I came back for 2 months and did it again for another month. And even though everyone was super cool about it, and I only lost one job out of it, it just wouldn't be fair to do that to people. And so in my mind, it was kind of like, okay, if I've been given this opportunity for 6 months, I might as well go for a year. I might as well try something out. So for right now, I'm not going to lie. It's a little bit daunting in certain ways. I've lived in LA for 17 years. I moved down here for college thinking I'd be here for 4 years and I'd probably just move home or something. And 17 years later, I'm still here. And I've lived in California my whole life. I've never lived out of the state, let alone out of the country. So having this idea of moving away for a while and not really knowing where I'm going to end up, and even getting, I'm going to be selling a lot of my things too. And I think for me, in this transition in my life, there's a lot of shifts going on with me moving. I'm at the end of a divorce right now too. And so there's a lot of opportunity for me to let go of what I expected things to be and let go of trying to come up with a plan, because you can come up with a plan for anything, but things are going to change.
Yeah, shit happens.
Shit happens like all the time. Like things will happen, and you can't really truly prepare for anything. I think you put a plan into place, and then you have to be okay with things changing. So for me, I've kind of tried over the past few months to figure out ways to keep my apartment, or like keep one foot in the door. And I'm like, I think the universe is telling me like, no, like you need to let go of everything and trust that you're going to land on your own 2 feet and be fine.
So tell me about what you're doing down there. Tell me about the sanctuary, what you've done in the past, how it'll be different this time, and for anyone listening, because it's a really cool thing, and there's opportunity for people to come down and do it themselves with you. So go ahead and do your shameless plug of yourself.
I originally went to the sanctuary at Two Rivers in Costa Rica. In 2017, I did my advanced 300-hour yoga teacher training there. I think I found it through like a Facebook ad or something. This was before like Facebook and Instagram ads were so blatantly obvious. It was like, it would kind of slide into like your feed and you didn't really know like how it got there. So when I first got that, I think I had been researching retreat centers because I was interested in leading retreats at the time and I hadn't led one yet. And then I came across the sanctuary at Two Rivers and I started doing some research, and I found that they did advanced teacher trainings down there. And that was something I was really interested in doing. So I saved my money and I went down and I did my 300-hour training for a month. It was a 4-week program. And I came back and I had a lot of shifts going on in my own personal life at the time. And my husband and I had just separated literally the day after I got back from Costa Rica. We decided to separate. And about a month later, I remembered Liz, my teacher down in Costa Rica, saying at the last lunch that we had, you are all 300-hour graduates now, and I lead 200-hour trainings here all the time. And if anyone's interested in coming an assistant, being an assistant teacher in the 200-hour trainings, let me know. And so I ended up going back last year in 2018 to assistant teach in a 200-hour training for 3 weeks. And then I was there for another 5 weeks after that. And I did that. I was gone for 2 months. I came back. And then a month later, she emailed me again and she said, hey, we have another training in December. Would you want to come back? And I kind of hemmed and hawed over it a little bit because I was like, oh, I just got back and everyone's going to be like upset with me. I did the whole worry thing, in my head, but why not? So I said, yeah, sure. And so I was there for Christmas last year, 2018, and went back and then came back again. And while I was there, she said, hey, if you want to be here for longer, we could do back-to-back trainings together. So I will be co-leading trainings starting in November. So November, December, January, February. So if anyone is interested in yoga teacher training.
And where in Costa Rica is this happening?
It's on the southern tip of the Nicoya Peninsula. And that's one of the blue zones. And if you're not familiar with what a blue zone is, it's a place where people live active lifestyles well into their, into becoming a centenarian, well into their hundreds. And so it's on the west side of the country, on the Pacific side. And I can't really say that there's a town, it's kind of near Montezuma, if anyone's familiar with Costa Rica, but the sanctuary is literally like you walk a kilometer into the jungle, like from the street. You cross the river like a bunch of times, and then you come across this place, and we meet you and help you. And so like you can't just like show up and like just find this place. It's actually like really amazing because you're away from the roads and the noise and street lights and all that. You're out there with the monkeys and
it's that type of country. I mean, you're out there.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I haven't been there since 2009, but I was in Montezuma, and we stayed literally on the beach and had to walk our luggage probably 1.5 miles across the sand and got like, but we had, you know, an entire house on the beach that I think at the time was like $40 a night or something absurd.
Right.
And the town, if I recall, was very kind of hippie-ish and just, you know, it's a laid back.
Still is.
I'm sure it hasn't changed much.
Yeah.
We were joking about, what is it, the Tambor Airport?
Yes. I love that airport.
The bench hasn't changed, and you sort of show up, and there's, it looks like a bus
stop. A bus stop, yeah.
And there's literally a dirt airstrip and nobody there to greet you, and you just pray that, you know, a plane shows up and takes you wherever you have to go.
I don't know. I think I trust a little bit more than that. But yeah, no, I mean, it is. It looks like a bus stop. There's like an overhang and some benches, and you just like hop on the plane, and there's but it's fun. Like, I think it's really cool to experience something that's a little bit different than what we're used to.
Well, and it's a place, I mean, the wildlife is thriving there, right?
Yeah.
And they've sort of been, I mean, even because for a time Costa Rica was the hip spot, and everyone was, you know, back when ziplining first came out, it was like, go to Costa Rica and go ziplining.
It's still a big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe not as much of a hype, but yeah, it's still a big thing there.
But for years, I think, you know, they've been living an eco-friendly lifestyle, and there's monkeys and birds, and is that part of the appeal there as well? Just sort of...
Oh, absolutely.
That people are in tune with nature and...
Oh, 100%. I mean, I know that like Costa Rica's, they're trying to move toward carbon neutrality. And so like right now their electricity is largely carbon neutral, and they're trying to become the first country in the world to be carbon neutral and allow for a little bit more of this like sustainability that we're all trying to work toward, right? And working more using like solar and hydropower and geothermal power and things like this. But I know, I mean, for me personally, it's a huge appeal because I feel the best when I'm connected with nature. I feel awesome when I'm there. And, you know, when I'm there at the sanctuary, the places that we stay in, you know, 2 of the 4 walls are screens. So you're in nature the whole time, and you're very much in tune with that. And I think that, you know, people could say, oh yeah, but when you go down there, you're away from the day-to-day life. And so a lot of people say, you know, oh, vacation is nice. And of course people want to move to a certain place because it's nice and you're away from the bills and all this kind of stuff. And even though, yes, there are certain things I didn't have to take care of while I was there, I was also assisting in yoga teacher trainings 10 hours a day for 3 weeks straight. It's a lot of work, and you're on the whole time. And as the assistant teacher, I'm there, you know, helping the students when they have questions and really kind of being that point person when people are struggling with something or they want somebody to talk to. And so it's a very long day, but I think being in nature helps me stay grounded, and it helps me stay balanced. And so that's a huge appeal for me. You know, the people of Costa Rica, you know, they live pura vida. They live, you know, the happy life. And it's not just like a saying. It doesn't just mean like good life. Like they use that as like a greeting. They say pura vida, like in the morning, like hello, goodbye, or like everything's good. And I mean, that's the way that they live. And part of that is being so connected to nature.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm backtracking a tiny bit here.
That's fine.
But I think before you go to Costa Rica, you're doing a retreat at the Grand Canyon, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that. And is that something... This is not a hike for the faint of heart, though. I mean, you're hiking into and out of the Grand Canyon, right? So you should have some level of physical fitness and...
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely you do not have to be an avid hiker. I had never been to the Grand Canyon, let alone hiked through it the first time I did it. And I mean, I'll go on hikes in like Palos Verdes for like 5 miles and it's like fairly flat. So I'm not like this crazy hiker or anything. So as long as you are comfortable with let's say like walking 10 hours a day and knowing that you're going to be losing, like I think it's like 4,000 feet of like elevation or something like in a day. And you know that your lungs can take it and that you are physically fit enough to walk like that, then that's fine. I mean, the first time that I did it, like I ended up having a knee thing going on and we did rim to rim that time. So we started at the North Rim. Now we start at the South Rim, which is I think 10 miles, but we were doing rim to rim and I think it was 13 or something the first time we went.
This suddenly sounds like it's getting really dirty.
I know.
Rim to rim. I don't know if I want to do that.
I know every time I say it, I'm like, what are people thinking? But the first time that I did it, I was having kind of like a knee issue happening, but I made it down, and everything was fine, and you just have to. You have to know, I think that the biggest thing is a lot of times people let fear get in the way and they're like, oh no, I can't do that. For the majority of people, yes, you can. You absolutely can. And it really is, it all comes back to mindset.
So tell me about Sarah and what you're doing on the trip, the intent.
Yeah, so Sarah's a life coach and I'm a meditation teacher. And so we lead these trips through the Grand Canyon to help people discover things about themselves. And it's an opportunity for transformation for a lot of people as well. She went through a lot of things in her own life and really connected back with nature and found herself when she was in nature. And even for myself, that's been sort of the theme of my life, I guess, as well as when things are challenging, I go back into the space of nature. And so she started these retreats through the Grand Canyon to help people sort of find themselves and give themselves the space and opportunity to disconnect from the world around them and to push themselves physically and mentally too and emotionally to do something that maybe they would never have the opportunity to do before. This is the first retreat of its kind. She's blazing the trail, she's paving the way, and it's such an honor to be alongside her on these trips and retreats. And we take people down there and it's an opportunity to really dive into yourself, really. We're literally going into the earth. Sarah says this all the time. We're going into the earth and kind of digging things up. And like sometimes shit comes up and we have to face it and acknowledge it. I think that a lot of times in our day-to-day lives, we push things aside and we don't want to deal with it. And we're really good about saying to ourselves, no, I'm over it, or I don't need to think about that anymore. But unless we actually acknowledge it and we face things and we let ourselves really dig deep and dive in, we aren't giving ourselves the opportunity to process things. And so these trips are that opportunity to really sit with yourself and to find movement, not only physically. We're literally like hiking down from the top of the Grand Canyon down to the bottom at the Colorado River. But we're also giving ourselves the opportunity to move things and energy within. So we have to understand that there's not just movement of the body, but there's movement of energy and shift in mindset when we go on these trips as well. So, yeah.
And people can find information on how to sign up on your website?
Yeah, so my website's beautifully.awakening.com, and there's information about this trip on there. We will be doing a trip in November to shoot. It's going to be shot for a documentary. That one's going to be a little bit more like application based on the people that we're going to be taking for that one. But then the next one that's open that Sarah and I will be leading together is April of 2020. So there's information about that retreat on my website. It actually links back to Sarah's website because we lead everything through her for the Grand Canyon trips. And then also on my website on that retreats tab, there's information about my upcoming retreat in Costa Rica. So after I finish doing the 4 back-to-back 200-hour yoga teacher trainings with Liz for Lakshmi Rising, I will be leading a week-long retreat in February where people can come and experience the magic of the sanctuary at Two Rivers for themselves. Because for me, that was a place that it sounds cliche, but it literally changed my life, and it's really my home away from home. And to be able to share that place with people that I love and even new people that I haven't met yet, to just be able to share that place and time for a true retreat, really allowing ourselves to step away from our normal habits so that we can give ourselves space to grow and pay attention to ourselves like that. I'm really looking forward to that.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, I want to do something that I call rapid fire.
Uh-oh.
So I'm just going to ask you a series of random questions.
Okay.
Give it to me quick. Favorite airline?
Delta.
Favorite place to visit again and again?
Costa Rica.
What's the perfect length of time for a vacation?
Ooh, 3 weeks.
Name a place you've always wanted to go, but you haven't been able to make it yet.
New Zealand.
Ooh, yeah, that's up there for me too. Yeah.
I want to do trekking in New Zealand.
I want to be there for a long time. I feel like, there's so much to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Skydiving, in or out?
In.
Scuba diving, in or out?
Out.
High diving, in or out?
High diving?
High dive, you know?
Out.
You were a swimmer.
Well,
you wouldn't do the high dive?
If it were off of a waterfall, I would, but not like an actual high dive into a pool.
So the more dangerous one you would do?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, scuba diving, wait. Now that I think about it, I'm like, oh, maybe that would be kind of cool.
Favorite social media outlet?
Instagram.
Least favorite social media?
Twitter or Snapchat, because I don't use either of them. Last
question. How many days can you milk one pair of yoga pants before you have to wash them?
I would say 4.
Whew! 4.
It depends on what country you're in and how hot it is.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Or who you're around.
And how long you're wearing them. I mean, are you wearing them for like an hour or are you wearing them all day?
Let's assume you've worked out.
Ooh. I mean, I will use a pair of yoga pants per workout. Like if I'm practicing in Costa Rica, I'll use them once and wash them.
I think that's the right answer.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of it in the sense, kind of like jeans, like you wear jeans like...
Well, yeah, jeans you can wear for a week. I'm thinking like sweaty, gross yoga pants.
Sweaty, gross yoga pants. Okay, can I retract my answer, please?
Nope, 4. You said it. Brittany goes 4 days before changing her.
So gross.
Visit her class. You'll love it.
That's so nasty. Hygiene, people.
Lastly, do you have just a final thought for people in regards to traveling, why you think it's important, and what's the most beneficial thing about traveling and why should people do it?
I think that travel really opens our minds to understanding things that are not in our comfort zone and understanding what the world is really like. I think that when we give ourselves the opportunity to immerse ourselves in other people's culture and to understand how grateful we really should be with the things that we have here at home, and also to understand that we can live more simply and it doesn't have to be inconvenient. Traveling really gives us the opportunity to see that. For me, the biggest takeaway from traveling has been to witness very, very happy, joyful, amazing people living wonderful lives with very little. And I think that we can use travel not just as an escape, but integrate it in our lifestyle to start to understand other people more, to be more open to connecting with more people, connecting with nature, connecting with the world that we live in, but also using it to understand ourselves more as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been an illuminating time here speaking with Brittany Lynne. You can follow her on Instagram at Beautifully Awakening or visit her website, beautifullyawakening.com, for more information on how to sign up for those retreats, the Grand Canyon, Costa Rica, I'm sure more in Mexico and much more to follow. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.